Hi, everybody. I am back and so soon, right? So y'all just saw me yesterday. But this is nice. I think you're gonna like this one. So I've put all this stuff together in a way. I've already talked about this, but it could have been missed because there were other things around it. Okay, so if you saw the video that I did for Blacks in Cyber Winter Conference, this information was in there. So now I'm just pulling it out, making it its own thing so that we can see, explicitly what the one thing is that we really need to consider. Okay, because you do what you want to do. Okay, you're your own person, it's your life, you do what you want to do. Okay, but this is something that we want to strongly consider if we want to be more innovative, okay, as cybersecurity defenders and whatever your job is, if you're a developer, if you work in a SOC, whatever that is. Okay, all right. So but before we get started, let me just do a little housekeeping type things here. Y'all know I have a Teespring store. Okay, so there's the address if you want to go on and look at the shirts. I'm going to put some more shirts on there. I got an idea when I was sleeping a couple nights ago, so I'm going to go back on there and put some additional shirts on there. Okay, so those will be there. And also my Patreon. Move this way. The $5 is for the career. So that's where I do the cybersecurity stuff. $50, that's my other work. And, if you're not ready for that, then don't even. Okay. And the $1 is just the support. Okay. But the $1, y'all still get a couple of the stuff of the things that the $5 group gets. Okay. So that's there. And it's, I don't have my address up here. What's the, let me see. Here. Why don't I have the address on there? That's weird. I don't know. But it's in the description, okay? For the Patreon, it's in the description. All right. I'm gonna have to redo that so the address is on there. All righty. So let's get started. So here I have two fellas right here that I'm sure many of you know. Okay. Of course, with the Bulls outfit, we have Mr. Michael Jordan. And then in the Lakers outfit, we have the late and great Kobe Bryant. Okay, two of several absolutely amazing basketball players who will and more. Okay, they did more than just basketball. Okay, than basketball, but have already gone down in history, and their names will be known forever. All right, so. But the thing I want to bring out about these two, they're great. Okay, these are two of the best. All right, the best of the best. All right. The thing that they have in common, other than the idea that they play basketball, is a coach. All right. And that coach, of course, is Mr. Phil Jackson. All right. Now, I could have just as easily titled this, Be the Phil Jackson of Cyber Defense. Okay. Because of what he's done, of what he does and the way that he does it. So let me read you a little bit of something about Phil Jackson, okay? So, so I got this from a bio that someone did for him, or an autobiography. Jackson, in his quest to become an innovative leader, studied human psychology, Native American philosophy, as well as Zen meditation. Okay, you get those three. It don't say basketball, and more basketball. An innovative leader. He studied human psychology, Native American philosophy, and Zen meditation. All right, now this is important, okay? And it says this allowed him to come up with a fresh approach to leadership, which was based on freedom and selfless teamwork. Now, I use Phil and some of the things he did in my leadership development talks, okay? Now, one of the things I use is Kobe Bryant was interviewed about what he thought about Phil Jackson, okay, and the way that he trains and all that. In that interview, he mentioned that one day when they were all there to train, okay, they would go to train very often, okay, go on the court and just train, practice, okay. He said this one day they went in, Phil had them all come on the court. They went out like they normally do, but there were no basketballs. So he was like, aren't we here to practice? Like, what's going on? There were no basketballs. He said the whole time when they're normally out there, dribbling and playing defense and offense and all this stuff, the whole time, they're usually doing that by the end of the day, they're sweating and tired and all this. The whole time, he said, all they did was visualize playing the game. Phil had them visualize every single move they made, where they would throw the ball, how they would throw it into the hoop, how they would recover, how they would get the rebound. They had to visualize themselves doing that on the court the whole time. This is the kind of coach Phil Jackson was. Very unorthodox, okay? Who goes to practice basketball with no balls? No basketballs. Who does that? Okay. So he thought it was weird. Like, what's going on here? So let me let you hear something else that Kobe says about the way Phil coached. And again, he studied human psychology, Native American philosophy, and Zen meditation. So let me let you hear what Kobe says in his own words about that. All right. So I'm going to share this with you. Share screen. There we go. Make sure I share the audio. There we go. Okay. Let me get myself out of the way so you can see the whole thing. All right, Kobe, what you say?
Obviously, he had a lot of interesting rituals. You would hear about the yoga. You would hear about all this stuff that he would do. What is the weirdest thing he did with you in practice that you're like, what the hell are we doing here?
He had a Tai Chi master come to practice. And we walk out there and, the Tai Chi master standing in center court and tells us to take our shoes off. And I'm pissed because I'm ready to play basketball. And he's standing up there and says everybody closes their eyes and stuff. And he does stuff like monk gazing at moon and talks about the fingertips and barely touching and the spirituality of all that. And I'm peeking around like, is everybody doing this shit? Like, what the hell's going on? And there, and big ass Phil's there doing it himself. He's like, he's doing this whole, doing all this stuff, I'm like, damn, okay, I'm gonna try it. But honestly, I bought into it. I bought into the meditation. I bought into the deeper connection that exists within the game. And so when you watch our teams, or you watch any of Phil's teams, or Chicago teams, Game 6 against Utah, you watch our games, Game 7 against Boston, we were never rattled, ever, because we're always in the moment, always in the present, always extremely calm, always looking at the reality of the situation and not letting our emotions cloud our execution. And that comes from being in that meditative state that he would teach and preach from day one.
Would he take you back?
Okay, so that's an unorthodox thing that Phil Jackson would do. And I wanted to begin with that because as far as I know, okay, no basketball coach has taken the team to as many championships as Phil Jackson. He did it with the Bulls and he also did it with the Lakers. Okay. And he had a very unorthodox coaching style, as you just heard from Kobe Bryant. Okay. And as you know, I told the story of another story that Kobe told about what Phil Jackson would do, you know, where you're practicing without a ball, you're at a basketball practice with a Tai Chi master. Like what does that have to do with basketball? You know, a lot of people would ask. And even Kobe said, you know, he had to buy into it, you know, to see, okay, so what is this? Why are we doing all this? All right. And I wanted to show that first because the one thing that I'm talking about here is related to that. You're like, okay, I'm on the blue team. Like I'm a SOC analyst or I'm a policy analyst or I'm a pen tester or whatever, you know, like what. And Cheryl is talking about this thing. What the hell does that have to do with cybersecurity? You know, seriously. And you see how successful Kobe Bryant was and how successful, you know, Michael Jordan, you know, and many of the other players that played, Scottie Pippen, you know, whose coach was Phil Jackson. All right. Um, Very successful. And he did just out there, things that were just out there. All right. But he was very effective at what he was trying to do, become an innovative leader. Not, he didn't say, I want to become the best basketball coach I can be. No, he said an innovative leader. That was the goal. Okay. That was the goal. So now I want you to see the one thing that I'm talking about here, but I'm not going to initially talk about it. I'm going to let Mr. Elon Musk tell you what that one thing is. And then we're going to get into it and I'll show you some examples from cybersecurity as far as how we can actually use this. Okay. Get that together for you. Okay. Now, if you saw my my other video, the winter conference at BIC, you would probably be familiar with this, but here it is again. Oh no, I want to share screen. Make sure the audio is on. There we go. First principles. That's what we're talking about here. That's the one thing.
First principles is kind of a physics way of looking at the world. You boil things down to the most fundamental truths and say, okay, what are we sure is true? And then reason up from there. Somebody could say, in fact, people do, that battery packs are really expensive and that's just the way they'll always be because that's the way they've been in the past. No, that's pretty dumb. If you applied that reasoning to anything new, you wouldn't be able to ever get to that new thing. So first principles would be to say, okay, what are the material constituents of the batteries? What is the spot market value of the material constituents? So you can say, okay, it's got cobalt, nickel, aluminum, carbon, and some polymers for separation, and a steel can. If we bought that in the London Metal Exchange, what would each of those things cost? Like, oh, it's like $80 per kilowatt hour. So clearly, you just need to think of clever ways to take those materials and combine them into the shape of a battery cell, and you can have batteries that are much, much cheaper than anyone realizes. First principles is kind of a physics way of...
Okay. So that's his explanation of first principles. It's very simple. Okay. First principles is about not just accepting, well, let me stop sharing, not just accepting what you've heard, even what you've learned in certification class. Okay. What you know, the best cyber professional on the planet has told you. All right. First principles is about laying all that aside and for yourself, just taking it apart and saying, well, let me see what all this is made of. Okay. Let me see what it's made of. And then is there a way that I can rebuild it? Okay. To make it smarter, faster, cheaper, you know, more available to more people. You know, like what can I do with this? Right. Now, the problem though, with this type of model of thinking, and that's what it is. It's a thinking model. Let me show you what. Super simple. That's all it is. Okay. Okay, that's all it is. You have a thing, you take it apart, and you have something new. It looks easy on paper, okay, on paper. But it takes, number one, courage to do this, okay? When Kobe was talking, he was like looking around like, who else is like, this is weird. Like, is everybody else doing this? You know, you're going to be uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to do this kind of thinking. It's very uncomfortable. So that's number one. Number two, Kobe had people around him who were doing the same thing. So even if it was uncomfortable, at least you got people around you doing it too. So, you know how they say misery loves company, right? If he was miserable, then the people around him were too. So it was okay. It was okay because other people were doing it. Now, had he been around other folks that weren't doing that, he probably wouldn't have done it. Because number one, nobody does this. This is not basketball. And number two, I don't see the immediate benefit of doing it. Number three, I don't want to feel stupid. Okay, I don't want to look stupid. I don't want to feel stupid, so I ain't doing it. So now what do you get? Kobe was great on his own, okay? But if it wasn't a Kobe, all right, you would get a plain run-of-the-mill, just like everybody else, basketball player. That's what you would have gotten, okay? So those are all reasons why what Elon just said sounds easy, okay? But it's not. It's not easy at all, especially if you're in an environment where people just don't get it. Like, why are you asking that question? What are you doing? You look nuts. It looks crazy. Why just do stuff the way the book says to do it and just move on? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So first principles thinking. Okay, so now I want to be able to just show you what this would look like, what first principle thinking would look like, could look like with the work that we do. All right. And it's not just for, so I have, well, if you're in cyber security, okay, then you're in defense and security. All right. That's the end game. The end game is defense and security. If your end game is something other than that, you're on the wrong channel. Okay. Let me just tell you that. You can exit stage left. Okay. I don't care. You're on the wrong channel. Security and defense is what we're doing over here. All right. Now, let me show you. Oh, and I meant to do this too. I forgot to do this, but over here, so you know how YouTube channels, the people who come to the channel who are subscribers, they're given names and stuff, right? So you all are navigators, okay? And for good reason, all right? If you think of what a navigator does, all right, they're the ones that are out there who are brave enough, courageous enough, and who have the skill to go out where other people don't want to go. Okay, they're either afraid or they're just comfortable where they are. They're just comfortable, all right, and don't want to go nowhere, right? They're fine right where they are. We are not that over here, right? We're not comfortable, right? So, and the thing about being person-centered is not saying that you're selfish, okay? When navigators go out to look for land or space the way we're doing, right? You're doing it to tell the people back there, hey, look, there's room over here for you. Whatever the idea is, whatever you're trying to do, there's land over here, okay? Or there's room over here for you to do that. We've just discovered something, right? We talked about this a couple videos ago. So what we're doing over here, we're asking the questions that they don't want to ask them, and they have no idea that those kinds of questions are possible, all right? So if I got to ask questions by myself over here, that's what I'm going to do, because that's just what I do, all right? So let me show you what we have. The first example here. Oh, hold on a second. Let me show you. So along with all the other amazing things he's doing. Okay. I just discovered that Elon Musk is going into the cell phone business. All right. So this is the Model P, the Model Pi, right? Or the Model P, right? See, you have the pi symbol. This is the cell phone that uses his Starlink. That's going to use the Starlink that he's creating. This phone is amazing. I mean, you got to go read about it. Okay, it's called the Model Pi or the Model P. The thing that got me was like you can charge it. It's solar. Okay, you can lay it down in the sun and it'll charge, right? But it does so many more things, right? So many more amazing things. So this, Mr. Musk here, he's really practicing what he preaches. Okay. I don't know another car manufacturer who has a cell phone. Do y'all know? Do Toyota got a phone? I mean, I don't know. But he does. And I know that his business, he's into car manufacturing and technology, tech, which is what he says. Okay. A lot of great things that he's doing. Now, let me show you this first thing, a way that we could, use first principle thinking, right? And again, this is going to require, forget about out of the box. Take the box away. Stop saying out of the box. That stuff is whack. It's weird, okay? When ain't nobody dealing with no boxes around here, okay? So the first thing we're going to look at, as you can see here, somebody has done an Nmap scan and has come up with, Christmas came early for them, depending on who they are. Somebody has an open port and it's SSH. SSH is like a treasure trove, okay? You could do so many things with an open port, with an open SSH port, okay? Now, so we learn, all of us, everybody who here for cybersecurity, what, port 22 is. Secure shell, we know the definition because we were asked it on one test or another, one test or 5, what is SSH? It's a network protocol designed to operate network services securely over an unsecured network. That's the definition. That's what we learned about it. We got that right on the test. Now we heard, you can't leave any ports open, and this is a bad one to leave open, and people be attacking it and all that. So how do we make it more secure? Some things we can do. We can disable the password-based authentication for SSH, disable root account, remote login, allow or deny access, all that stuff that we know about SSH, and we know that, and that's it. Okay, that's what we do. For those of you who pen test, you get excited when you see an open SSH and all that, and you can get in places and do whatever you do. Okay. Now, first principles thinking when it comes to this port right here, port 22. One thing we can do is go back to the RFC for SSH. If you don't know what the RFC is, I'm sorry to hear that. I really am. But it's partly not your fault, okay? Because they don't really tell us what that is, do they? When we first come in here, it's like it ain't none of your business. Like what you got to know what the RFC is. You know what I'm saying? It's nuts. So the RFC is a request for comments. Okay, these are the original documents that talk about what this thing is, not just what it is, how it works, and why it was even created. Okay, you're not going to get that from CompTIA. You're not going to get that from ISC Squared. You got to go to the request for comments and read that old looking text, okay, to see why was this thing actually created? What was it, create? What's the function of it? All right. That's where we need to go. That's one way we can use first principles thinking here. Go back to the RFC for these kinds of things instead of starting where individuals told you to start. This is all you need to know. If you know this about SSH, you're good. Your career is fine. You don't need to know anymore. No. Forget about all that. Okay, we're trying to break this thing down so we can come up with new and innovative ways to deal with securing this thing. Now, let me read you something from the RFC for SSH, okay? If you go to the RFC, it's 4251. RFC 4251 is the number for SSH, okay? Section 4.4 says, is about the security properties for this, for SSH. It says, the primary goal of the SSH protocol is to improve security on the internet. Okay, we got that. It attempts to do this, listen at this. It attempts to do this in a way that is easy to deploy, even at the cost of absolute security. The function of SSH is to improve the security in an easily adoptable way, to make that easy, even if it's at the cost of absolute security, okay? Something I told somebody when we were having this discussion was, the people who are so good at finding vulnerabilities with these different ports and stuff, they're so good at that. A lot of them, right? They're really good at that because they're going with the flow. They're not trying to paddle against what the RFC said, okay? No, they're not doing that. What they're doing is they're using it for the reason that it was supposed to be used, right? They're just repurposing, you know. It's the protocol that's hacked. That's what's being hacked. It's the protocols that are being hacked, okay? They're not trying to make SSH do something it wasn't meant to do in that way. It's meant to improve security, even at the expense of absolute security, okay? Because the point of it is to make it easy to do, easy to deploy. That's the point of it. Easy to deploy. That's the thing. What can we do now? Okay, that doesn't get in the way of that, because a lot of the stuff that we try to do, okay, is about, okay, just shut it down, or, you know, put a block on it, or you know, what can we do that goes along with what this thing is supposed to do, the way that it was created to work, you know? We don't have to go again. It's like paddling, you know, the river's going this way and we paddling in the opposite direction because we don't like the way the river going. It's letting too many people in, okay? We got to paddle in the opposite. No, go the same way, okay? But now what can we do while we're, you know, going the same way to improve even more the security, you know, of what we're doing? You know what I mean? A lot of things, and I've read them, not all of them, child. It's too many, okay? But many, when I read the RFC for a lot of these ports, I'm reading stuff I have never seen in any book anywhere ever, okay? Ever. And with the work you're doing, that information can have a huge impact on the way you decide to, you know, protect and defend and secure these various systems. But you'll never know that if you don't read it. You'll never know that. If you don't go back to the original document, you'll never know it. How will you know it? You can't just start where people tell you this is where you need to start and just, you know, take their word for it and go about your business. You know, I mean, you can do that if you want to, you know, like I said, it's your life, do what the hell you want to do. However, there are requests for comments that are free. You ain't got to pay for it or nothing. All right. Easy to read, plain language. You ain't got to be a computer scientist, none of that. My 12-year-old can read this thing and understand it, okay? But there is stuff in these documents that you, defender, need to know if you are going to be as effective as you can be with securing all of these systems that you're working with, okay? With coming up with different ideas on how to do these things, okay? Go back to the RFC. That's number one. Let me tell you the next one, okay? Now, the next one, we're going to look at port 21. Okay. Now, y'all going to flip out with this, but that's okay. Okay, we're going to hold each other's hand, but we're going to get through it. Okay. So this one, this is port 21. Okay. FTP, file transfer protocol. All right, we're familiar with this one. It's the standard communication protocol used for the transfer of computer files from a server to a client. Transferring files from a server to a client, okay? Now, some of the attacks that can happen on this port are anonymous authentication, directory traversal attack, cross-site scripting, and some other things. Okay, so we've seen that. Like we know that much. We know what it's for. We know that it can have these certain weaknesses, and we know some of the ways that cyber criminals can take advantage of these things. So we did the RFC, but let me just tell you what the RFC says, some of the objectives are for FTP, okay? And then I'm gonna tell you the way that we can use first principles thinking to address this port, all right? So the request for comments, for port 21 is RFC 959. And if you just Google the port number and RFC number, it'll bring up the thing for you. You can just go right to it. Okay? They're not hard to find at all. So the RFC says that the objectives of FTP are to promote sharing of files, you got that, to encourage indirect or implicit use of remote computers, okay, to shield a user from variations in file storage systems among hosts, and to transfer data reliably and efficiently. Those are the objectives according to the original documents of what FTP is for, okay? Now listen at this last one. It says, FTP, though usable directly by a user at a terminal, is designed mainly for use by programs. That's what FTP is designed for. Primarily, like you could use it and do whatever, but it's not for that. Mainly, it's designed for programs, okay? So how can we use first principles thinking the way Elon Musk just said to use it, in the way he used it to do what he was doing, okay? One thing we can do is to create an exercise, be it a CTF, a Phone Hub, like whatever y'all doing out there, okay? But just create something, right, where a file transfer has to occur between a server and a client. But you can't use FTP. FTP does not exist. How do you do it? FTP, FTP, what the hell that mean? What is that? Huh? That's not even, you can't use FTP. Okay. Now, if your mind first go to, well, I can, there's no way I just, I need you to shake that off. Okay, I need you to shake it off. All right. Because when the things that are written down here, and this is our issue. I said our, I didn't say yours. I said this is our issue. Cheryl is included in all this, okay? The issue is when we see something written in a study guide or on a website from a reputable place or something, we feel like that is law, okay? Like it's law. Things can't be any other way. They can't. Why? Because it's written. Somebody wrote it. Look, it can't be any other way. FTP, that's the only way to do it. What you talking about? Without FTP, that's our problem. That's a problem. First principles thinking is like you need to go somewhere with all that. Okay, if first principle thinking could talk, it'd be like, you know what? You need to have all the seats right now, all of them. Okay. Because we're going to get into situations where you can't just rely on what's always been done, which is what Elon just said. He said it. How did he put that? He said that's the dumbest thing, or that's ridiculous, something like that. He said to say, okay, and we FTP, you see it right there in the picture, is session layer 5. How the hell you gonna get from here to here without it? You know, figure it out. What's that dude on that show where they were making clothes? He said, make it work. Make it work. Okay. Sometimes we just gonna have to make it work. All right. So with this, okay, you're gonna have to make it work. You're gonna have to use the talents that have been laying dormant because we're so used to following regs and stigs and all this other stuff. Okay. All that stuff gonna have to wake up. The muscle, they've atrophied. I get it. I see. I know. You don't think I know? I know. All right. But you're going to have to start exercising them. And you're going to start now by doing this thing, transferring this file without FTP. Okay, let's go. Make it work. You know what I'm saying? So those are the kinds of things that wherever you are and whatever you're doing, okay, if we are going to be the innovators and the navigators that we need to be to evolve this profession in a direction that it needs to go, okay, to stop chasing behind criminal hackers. If we're going to do that, if we're going to get ahead of it, then we're going to have to start thinking this way. We're going to have to. We're going to have to start thinking this way, okay? And it's not just about defense, okay? Because what I think I put the hashtag in the description or something like that. It's cybersecurity, defense, and innovation. You can't keep thinking about defense because you're putting yourself in a box. Here come the box. Now you got to think outside the box because you just put the box right there. Because all you think is defense. Okay. No. Phil, I just showed you Kobe Bryant talking about Phil Jackson and some of the weird shit he did for practice. Okay. Who practices basketball with no ball? Okay. Phil Jackson does that. That's why him and the teams he coached were so amazing, okay? Because his goal was not to be the best basketball coach. That was not his goal. Let me tell you what his goal was again. I read it here. I can tell you what his goal was to become an innovative leader. That was his goal. That's why he took human psychology, Native American philosophy, Zen meditation. That's why he did all that. He said, I want to be an innovative leader. Phil Jackson. He didn't say, I want to be the best basketball coach in the world. No. He didn't box himself in like that. Okay. So when we're doing this stuff, don't box yourself into, I need to find a defense to no, don't do that. All right. We are innovators. We're navigators. Okay. That's what we're doing. We want to be the best innovator we can be. The best navigators we can be in this digital world. That's the goal. Okay, that's the goal. Now, what does that look like in the end? For Phil Jackson, like I said, as far as I know, I don't know another basketball coach that has taken a team to so many championships as Phil Jackson. Let me know if I'm wrong. I don't know, but from the last I heard and saw, it was him. Okay, somebody else could have done it. Hey, 2020 Rise Above, how you doing? Somebody else could have done it. I'm not sure who it was. But the point is, don't box yourself in. If you have to think outside the box, then you need to examine which box you done put yourself in. Okay, that you now have to think outside of. Okay, that's the next question. Okay, because there shouldn't be one. There shouldn't be one there at all. Okay. So now let me show you how this works before I sign off. One of my favorite movies, okay? Now, I love Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks is one of my favorite actors, okay? I love almost everything that he's in. I really do. So, Apollo 13. I don't know if y'all have seen it. It's pretty old, but it's really good. It's a true story about the individuals who went up on Apollo 13. They were going to the moon, and they had problems. They almost died, okay? And they had to end up missing the moon and coming back to Earth. But everybody arrived safely, but they had some issues up there, okay? They got the skin of their teeth, okay? They were able to get back to Earth safely. So there's a scene in Apollo 13. That's the perfect example of what I'm talking about here. Okay. It's with there's another actor in there that I really like too. I forget his name. You're gonna know him when you see him though, because he's in a lot of stuff. But the name of the video, and it's just an excerpt, well, not, I'm just gonna play the part that's relevant. It's about fitting a square peg in a round hole. So what happened was, because of all the problems that they had on the ship, something got off the ship or fell off the ship while they were in space and all that, right? They started losing oxygen, okay, and breathing out, carbon dioxide. So the filter that they had in there was not working well enough because there was too much carbon dioxide, okay? So they had to create, do something with this filter so it can give out more oxygen. But the things that had been created, one was round and another was square. So they had to literally fit this square filter into this round filter thing. It was nuts. Like, who built this like that? But that's where they was. That's what they had to do. And the scene talks about that. Okay. So let me go ahead and share my screen with you. I hope you guys are getting this okay. My connection is being weird. Okay. Make sure the volume is on. Show that again. All right, here we go.
Okay, people, listen up. People upstairs handed us this one, and we got to come through. We got to find a way to make this fit into the hole for this, using nothing but that. Let's get it organized.
Okay, let's build a filter.
Get some coffee.
The deadly CO2 gas is literally poisoning the astronauts with every breath in and out.
Heads up, heads up.
And most people will not comment.
Go. Heads up, people. Look out now.
What's this?
That's what they got to make.
Well, I hope you got the procedures for me.
Right here.
That's it.
Okay, so that's what they had to do. And guess what? They did it. They did it. They used duct tape, a sock, some wire, like whatever they had on the ship. Okay, they had to make a file exchange without FTP. Okay, now do it. You know what I'm saying? And the things were not, so they had to figure that out, or these guys were literally going to die if they didn't figure it out. They had to figure it out. They had to throw the book away. What they did, what had never been written anywhere before. Nobody wrote it down. They had to they couldn't use anything that had been written before. Okay. They couldn't. On the spot, they had to do that. This is what I'm talking about. All right. You have to start with first principle thinking. Okay. The thing that's going to get you, not forget about the next step. Okay. Many people are in the past right now. Like they're living in the past. That's where they are. Okay. You don't want to be there unless you want to be there. I mean, be there if that's where you want to be, but you don't have to be. You could be in the present. You could be right here. You could be right here. Okay. But you're going to have to think differently to get here. And, you're going to have to think different. The thing that's keeping you there is the way you're thinking. That's what's keeping you there. I'm just telling you what I know. All right. Not what I read. I'm telling you what I know. All right. The thinking is what's keeping us there. Navigators. Okay. I'm talking to y'all. All right. If you're on this channel, I'm talking to you. Okay. We have the tools to navigate. We have them. We just got to use them. All right. Using them, I know it takes courage. All right. It takes skill. And just like Kobe said, you have to buy into it. He had to buy into it because he felt stupid. He was like, this is ridiculous. It don't sound like, anything's going to come of it, And look at what happened, when he was coached under Phil Jackson. All right. Okay. That's the one thing. It's thinking differently. Okay. It sounds easy. It sounds like, how is that going to do anything? But you've just seen, I showed two people. I showed you Elon Musk. Said, you know who he is. If you don't, go Google him. Okay. Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, Phil Jackson. Okay. That's just two of thousands. All right. I'm telling you. If you want to, stay in the past, it's up to you, but you can be here in the present if you want to. All right. And it don't take much. It don't take much. Just willingness to do it. All right. Willingness to do it. All right, y'all. That's all I got for you today. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. If you're not a member of the channel, please go ahead and hit subscribe and the bell so you can be notified when I'm here next. And I broke this out of a larger presentation because I didn't get to spend as much time on it as I wanted to. So now, this is what that is. And there's another section of that presentation that I'm going to break out and come back to you all with. Okay, so thanks again for being here. Have a great one, and I'll see you next time. Good night.